Congratulations on your purchase of the ApneaLink and oximetry. My name is Christina LaJoy, and I've been the sleep specialist here at Great Lakes for over the past 20 years. By now the components should be out of the boxes, and we will begin our review. What I really like to show you is how to optimize your ApneaLink by reviewing the components, connecting the unit, operating the ApneaLink, and navigating the software. The first is the carrying bag. Once you've prepared the ApneaLink for your patient to take home, place in the carrying bag along with the patient instructions. Next is the ApneaLink itself and the holding belt. The holding belt has two velcroed ends that will need to be secure around the patient's chest so that we get accurate recordings. Your ApneaLink also came with 3 nasal cannulas. They are packaged individually along with the instructions. In addition, you have the ApneaLink setup guide and DVD. The DVD is the software, and it'll also have the setup guide right on your computer, so you can refer to that or you can go to the manual. It will also have a USB cable so that you can prepare and download, and also a set of AA batteries. The batteries are recommended to be changed each time you prepare a patient. What you will notice here is the ApneaLink flipped over and where you place the 2 AA batteries once you slide the cover off. It is important to note that the batteries should never be stored in the unit when the ApneaLink is not being used. The X-Pod is directly connected into the ApneaLink for your pulse oximetry. Notice the little black collar, that's the portion that gets plugged into the ApneaLink, and the gray rectangular collar where it says known in X-Pod is where your disposable or reusable sensors will be connected. Please note there is that little notch on the black portion of the X-Pod that will fit securely into the ApneaLink. As you notice, the notch is also on the ApneaLink. Once the X-Pod is placed, it is really not necessary to remove it. The only connections that should be removed will be your sensors from the X-Pod. You will receive 3 disposable sensors and a finger clip. The finger clip will fit securely over the connection of the sensor to the X-Pod and can also be utilized for holding the cord onto the ApneaLink belt itself. The reusable sensor is quite popular in the fact that it can be disinfected and you do not have to replace the sensors each time for the patient. You would simply use your reusable sensor and disinfect and prepare for the next patient. The cannulas plug right into the ApneaLink. They actually screw right in, and you'll see here the cannulas connected. Now that all the components are connected, we are ready to download the software, at which point the software will ask you to plug in your ApneaLink. Before we begin our navigation through the ApneaLink software, I'd like to go over a few definitions that will be helpful for you as you're reviewing the signal and event view. The first line I'd like to show you is the blue line. The blue line is the airflow. The airflow will indicate inhalation and exhalation. The apnea episode that you'll see will be red in color, the apnea being a cessation of breath for 10 seconds or longer. The hypopnea will be in teal color, which is the 50% decrease in airflow, and it will indicate in the upper left-hand corner with a little H that's for hypopnea, as well as apnea with the A for apnea. When we get to the snoring part of the graph, this is what it will look like if the patient is snoring. You'll see an orange on the graph going through the whole study, and these little black bursts will indicate loud snoring. The airflow limitations with snoring will be shown in a dark green color, and you'll also see the letters FS. That's airflow limitations with snoring. The airflow limitations are a lime green color. And when a patient has possibly a deviated septum, nasal congestion, or small nasal airway patency, you may see this throughout the night. On the graph, you will also see is the pulse as well as the blue indicating a baseline saturation as well as any desaturations that may take place. Once you have clicked on the ApneaLink icon, the first page that will appear is your start menu. And this is what we want to do to prepare our patient for their overnight study. By now, your ApneaLink should have a fresh set of batteries, nasal cannulas in place, as well as your pulse oximeter. In addition, you want to plug in the USB cable into the ApneaLink as well as your computer. The sound you just heard was the software recognizing the ApneaLink. The next area we want to go to is Prepare ApneaLink. In the upper left-hand corner, you'll see Device Status. When there's a green light, that means all of the accessories and batteries are correctly in place. If a red light appears, then that can be that the batteries were misplaced in the unit or that the battery is exhausted. For those of you that have multiple ApneaLinks, when you prepare the patient record card, the serial number is also the one that you can verify on the ApneaLink so that you have the correct patient in place. First thing you want to do is take a look at the patient record card. You have 3 areas that are yellow. Those are the areas that are mandatory in order for you to proceed to the next step. So we just fill it in, and I recommend using the capital letters because it's much easier once you start getting more patients to find them in the patient record field. Where it says date of birth, the best thing I can tell you is to have the actual date of birth, and if not, for some reason, then you want to make sure that the date is not the actual date of the night that they wear the device. Gender. This information is up to you if you want to place any important information right in this area. Mostly what my doctors will do is put the referring physician name in, and definitely fill in the height and weight, because the report that's generated will also give you the BMI. Once all your pertinent information is in place, then please go to OK and click it once. The next thing that will appear is a little square in the center of the patient record card. It says data was transferred to the device and that the device is ready. Then it'll ask you, would you like to print the patient instructions? I would say yes at this point. And then what will happen is the information for the patient instructions on how to place it will be printed on your printer. You are now ready to place the ApneaLink into the blue travel bag and send it home with your patient. Now that you've sent the patient home with their ApneaLink, I have a few suggestions that might make it easier for the patient to place. What I recommend is have the patient stand in front of the mirror, place the belt on securely around mid-chest, Then place the nasal cannulas and the pulse oximetry. Once all the components are in place, have the patient stand in front of the mirror and hold the button down for 3 seconds until they see the green light appear. Since they're wearing the nasal cannulas, you may see the light dim in and out during inhalation and exhalation. The red light will also be on the pulse oximeter. Remember, the unit has to be worn at least 4 hours for us to capture a good sleep report. The next morning, the patient has everything still in place, and what they should do is go back in front of that mirror and hit that same button 3 consecutive times. 1, 2, 3. And then the light will go out. If the light is still red on the ApneaLink, then they just have to repeat the 1, 2, 3, and then the light will go out. Most times the pulse oximeter light will still stay on, and that is normal. What we're most concerned about is having the unit turned off properly so that there is no light on the ApneaLink. Now that the patient has worn the ApneaLink, the next day or when they're scheduled, they will bring back the ApneaLink and you will connect the USB back into the ApneaLink and into your computer. Click on the icon and the Quick Start page will appear. Now we will be clicking on the download button. Now that the raw data has been analyzed and all of the information transferred from the ApneaLink to your computer, the next thing that will appear once it's downloaded successfully will be the report itself. The first screen is the report. And what you'll see over here is an area, which I'll show you later, how to place your logo. You have the ResMed logo. And we want to see what this report looks like. So if you go up, you can increase the magnification of the page, and we can take a look. This is an example patient. You want to take a look at all of the information that you placed on the patient record card should appear here as well. The recording time is the actual start time and stop time and the duration of the recording. And right next to it is the evaluation, which is always going to be about 10 minutes off because of the onset of sleep. The color guide is really probably the most interesting and the easiest way to explain to your patient that they're not in a normal range, that they are suspect for pathological breathing disorder. The raw data or the results will be on the right-hand side, which we can look at a little closer in, showing you the average breath per minute, how many breaths the patient took in that 5-hour and 57-minute duration, how many apneas, in this case there were 26, how many hypopneas, in this case there were 44, the airflow limitations without snoring was 2,714, airflow limitations with snoring was 25, snoring events 338. This will also give you, because the patient is wearing the pulse oximetry, the number of DSATs that took place in that 5-hour and 57-minute period. It'll give you a saturation level as to how long they were in that percentage range, and then with that raw data you come over to the left and this provides you the analysis. So indicating what is normal for an AHI is 5 or less. This patient had 11. Same thing with the risk indicator. What is the risk indicator? The risk indicator is a combination of the AHI and the airflow limitations. This patient had an apnea index of 4 and the hypopnea index at 7, which is how we arrived at the AHI for 11. The approximate airflow limitations per hour was 58, and the airflow limitations with snoring in a 1 hour time was 1. The oxygen DSAT index, commonly referred to as the ODI, was 11, and the analysis provided will give you an average saturation, which this patient was at 95, the lowest at 87, and that was the DSAT and the saturation, and your baseline was 95. It will also enable you to see what the pulse rate was. In this case, it was 47. That was the minimum, and the maximum was 109, and the average pulse was 66. It'll tell you how the analysis was derived according to the Academy of Sleep Medicine's parameters. So now that we have this information, what do we do with it? We will be looking at the signal and event views, but for now, I would like to show you, while we are on this page, how you can customize your comments and send this along to the referring physician. This will be a case where, let's say, the patient originated in your chair, said that maybe they just snore, doesn't have a bed partner, and takes the ApneaLink home, brings it back with these results. You kind of put the onus on the patient at this point because they are somewhat suspect. And now you want to recommend that they need an overnight sleep study. So before the patient leaves, you can just take your cursor, go up to the little notebook pad where it says Edit Comments. Once you do that, you can actually write in here that I am referring my patient for an overnight PSG, as an example. Then you click OK. What you'll see is the screen jump a little bit. There you go. And you'll hit the plus sign and scroll on down to the bottom, and there's right here where your notation is to refer the patient for an overnight PSG. The next screen that we're going to visit will be the signal view. Simply click once on the signal view. And remember, if you drag your cursor right below it, it'll tell you what it is. Okay, and now that we know what all those different colors represent, we're taking a look at a patient that is an example on your software that has OSA. So again, remember, with the blue being airflow, the teal being hypopnea, lime green is airflow limitations. There's a bit of red in here indicating apnea. Next line is snoring. Remember, it's the orange, sometimes with little black bursts. Your pulse rate and your saturation. So in looking at this, what I would get in the habit of doing is over in this corner here, you're looking at it in the night view. If the patient wore it for 4 hours, you can set it for the 4 hours, but when they have slept like 6 to 8 hours, I like to look at it in that night view. However, down on this graph, it's the same thing without the snoring, but it's got the pulse rate and the saturation, and down in this corner, I like to put it on the 10-minute interval. And at this point, what I'd like to show you is there's a lot of airflow limitations, and I'm seeing some teal right in here combined with some snoring, combined with some DSATs. We can take a nicer view and see what's actually going on there. So the area that I clicked on up here will show down here in a little lighter in color. Also, the airflow goes from blue to purple. So it can really show you and help distinguish to your patient the erratic breathing pattern, the airflow limitations, an apnea episode, and how that correlates with the oxygen desats. So remember, we have apneas and we have hypopneas, we have snoring, we have a lot of airflow limitations. So this patient is probably definitely a candidate for the overnight sleep study. And clicking on here will show you several more apnea episodes and those DSATs. And remember, on the report, I believe the ODI was 11. Should be around 5 or less. So we have a lot of activity going on here. If you didn't want to click on an area like this, what you can do is go down here, and we want to look at apneas or unclassified apneas, hypopneas. These arrows will take you to the next one, and so on. So it'll just key in on the hypopneas. If you want to send this to the referring physician, you can actually screenshot this area, and then it'll be attached to the report so that you can email that to the referring physician. One of my favorite screens is the event list, and as we proceed, you'll see why. Click once on the event list, and what that'll do is prepare what they call an event tree and a listing of all the events. Again, I like to go down here. Instead of looking at it all condensed in the night view, we'll look at it in the 10-minute interval. I'm going to put this on hypopnea and go up to the tree. Click on that. I want to click on OSA, which now this will give you a whole list of everything that was on in the raw data on the report, everything that was demonstrated in the signal view in color. But what this is going to allow you to do is list all the hypopneas, and that's when that D has a little minus sign next to it. It's going to give you the hypopnea start time, stop time, and the duration in the worst event on down. So watch what happens when we click on that first hypopnea. At the bottom, you'll see it highlighted. So at this moment in time, this particular patient had a hypopnea that lasted 1 minute, 35 seconds, and you can also see the DSATs that took place that correlate right with that hypopnea and the airflow limitations, and this patient coming out of 1, 2, 3 apnea episodes, then into the hypopnea, and then into this long hypopnea, which sent the patient into some DSATs. So you can actually go through and see the apnea episodes, and again, at 38 seconds, if you have your patient stop breathing right while they're in your chair, and you know, that's a pretty long time, and some people don't even realize what they do. Again, that's down here, the lighter apnea, the DSATs, your pulse. Let's see, it'll take you to the next one in descending order. The worst on down, on down, on down. Or you can take a look at your apneas and go to the next one by using these little arrows. If there's nothing, if you're out of time on the recording, it'll show you a little signage. So you can always go back by using that scroll bar or this scroll bar, which there isn't any, so it's showing you no. Let's see, full limitations and snoring. This pretty much happened throughout the night. So if you go and you key on that airflow limitation, it'll give it to you at that very moment in time. Same thing with oximetry. It'll give you your baseline saturation, which that's going to be in brown, about 12:30 that took place. You can see how the airflow is, almost in nice shape until we start getting more and more into the deeper sleep, and you can start to see how the airflow becomes really aroused and is disturbed by some of these spikes in the airflow that will look really dense and blue in the overnight view. And then this will show you all the DSATs that took place, and the percentage of that DSAT was, 94%. This patient had several, right about 6 o'clock, and you can see how it's lighter here. In the corners it'll say DS, so you'll know that those are the oxygen DSATs. And again, if you want to attach this and email it to the patient or the doctor or the referring physician, all you have to do is go up to that little camera, and that will also attach itself along with the report, the signal view, and the event list. Or if you prefer, I can provide you with the software, and they'll just have to download it at the other office sites, and they'll be able to open up the full sleep screening study. I think now would be a good time to go back to the report. Once we're on the report, this is where all of the sending of information can take place. We'll go up to File, and the first thing you'll see is the index card. That'll just take you back to the index card if you want to add anything. The archive, the little symbol with the disk, is going to be the area in which you can store the patients once your record page is starting to get full. Or you can save the report locally, and that will just save the report, and you click on it and it'll take you for your target, either the desktop or My Documents. You can make up a folder and keep them organized that way. The other thing is, if you want to print the report, the only thing that will print is the report. Patient instructions at ApneaLink for ApneaLink Plus. Most times you won't need to view the external data, and I would recommend not going there. Your physician colleagues might want to do that if they need to change the parameters, but for our dental purposes, I would just leave that alone. Importing recordings, now instead of just sending just the report, again, now you can send the report, the signal view, as well as the event list into your documents or desktop. The other nice thing here is sending the report by email. And if you remember when we were looking at how to attach one of the screens, we did a screenshot. So when we do say send report by email, anything we screenshot will also be included here. So it is imperative that you have a dedicated email address as well as Adobe software. Then you can just put your address in here to the referring physician or GP, whoever you want to correspond with, and they'll have the report and they can open it just as is. However, if you want to send the whole recording, we can do this by email as well, providing that the recipient has the software downloaded on their computer as well. And then that'll bundle the report, it'll bundle the signal view as well as the event list, and with your comments you can send the whole picture to the referring physician. The next thing I'd like to cover with you is how to place your logo on your ApneaLink report. The first thing you want to do is go into the ApneaLink icon, choose a patient from the record file, which I chose an ApneaLink example patient to show you how to do this, and you may want to practice a little bit as well on one of the example patients. The next thing I want you to do is to minimize, go to Start, click on All Programs, click on Accessories, click on Paint. Once you have done this, what I'd like you to do is click on the letter and then one click within the box. And here I'd like to just make that box maybe about that big and have your font anywhere between 30 and 36, and I'll show you why. So here's where you type in your information. Okay, and now what you want to do is go up to File, Save As, and go into My Pictures. You can title it here by saying Logo and Save. Then you just X out of the program, go back to your ApneaLink and the report, and then we go up to Tools. And then we go to Settings. Settings will go to Report. And then you'll see this box appear. Everything that's checked should remain. The thing that is not checked is Show Logo on Report. So here we will just one click. Green little check mark will be there. Go into Select File. And then that'll take you into My Pictures. Double click on the logo, disregard, and click OK. And wait a few seconds, and then you'll see the little jump, and there's your logo in the upper left-hand corner. This really is nice, for you to consider doing. It really kind of reinforces your visibility, who the referring dentist is, and all of the information with regard to the patient. Once you have saved your logo, you can go to another patient and go up to Tools, Settings, Report, and Show Logo on Report, and the file is already there. So you just click on OK. Wait a few seconds, and everything that you put on your first sample patient will then appear on the second one as well. I think this really looks great, and it continues to have your visibility out there with the patients as well as with the referring physicians. When you're still on the event list, there are times when some of the components may become dislodged from the patient. If it is the nasal cannulas, sometimes it's nice to have a little medical tape to just secure them on the cheek. Rarely happens, but just in case, some patients are more aggressive during sleep. Also, if there is maybe some invalid data that you're questioning, what you can always do under the event tree is go into General and take a look. Why was that signal too small? And it'll tell you when. Was there a missing X-pod that we didn't get oximetry? Was the sensor off? In this case, no. Was there invalid data? Yes, there was. And that was right when the patient went to sleep because it was turned on, so that little part shows that. If the battery's too low, It'll tell you that. It'll give you a checklist, basically, before you contact us here at Great Lakes. I would just run a little checklist and take a look at that under General. Let's see. The other thing I wanted to show you here was the help. If at any time you need to just print out the patient instructions, it'll be for the ApneaLink, and some of the newer software, the 9.0 software, has the ApneaLink Plus, which we'll go over in another segment. But anytime you want to reference anything, such as the information I covered with you, or the clinical guide, every software comes with this manual, if you will, that is right on your computer. So if you ever want to see how the analysis is done, or what maybe the analyzing looks like, and the displays, you can simply go there and it will pull up the page as to whatever you're questioning, or whatever you have possibly like an oddity that you'd like to look at before contacting us. This will be a great reference for you if you have any questions, and certainly you may call us at any time. It has been my pleasure to help you become more familiar with the ApneaLink and its features and benefits. If at any time you need more information or you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me here at Great Lakes Orthodontics. I have a direct toll-free line, 866-781-5073, and 2 convenient email addresses for you as well. Thank you, and I look forward to working with you.